Hello, my name is Brendan Yuen, and thank you for joining us today. In this podcast, we will be exploring the mind of Stephen King. Our focus today will be on the effects of incubation, drug addiction, and sobriety on Stephen King's creativity. The photo you see here is a courtesy of Entertainment Weekly. We'll be primarily drawing from his 2018 Rolling Stone interview, as well as his autobiography, On Writing, and memoir of the craft. A brief introduction before we begin. Stephen Edwin King is an American horror author who has written approximately 61 novels and 200 short stories. Many of his works have been adapted into feature films and press television series. The Dark Tower, It, and The Shining have become landmarks in the landscape of pop culture. Throughout his life, he has struggled with alcoholism, drugs, and writing. We'll be doing a deep dive on his struggles with sobriety and his method of incubation. Stephen King started drinking by the age of 18. Shortly after the release of his novel Carrie, his mother passed away. In his memoirs, he recounts being drunk when he gave his mother's eulogy. King talks about his addiction to drugs and alcohol, helping him escape from his unhappiness and struggles with sobriety. He believes that his writing was severely affected by his usage of opiates, cocaine, and alcohol, and he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to work anymore without them. In his memoirs, he describes his ability to write as being something that he thought was correlated with his drinking and drugging habits, and he feared that giving it up would affect his ability to write. He remembers his decision to become sober as a willingness to trade his writing for the opportunity to stay married to his wife and watching his kids grow up. He has since weaned himself off drugs and opiates and immersed himself in his addiction to writing. We know that he was creative even without the cocaine or alcohol fueling his writing, and in fact, his sobriety has sharpened up and cleaned up his prose. His once lengthy, meandering novels have been replaced by leaner works that cut to the cores of issues such as morality and mortality. His experiences with addiction are consistent with the course material. Alcoholism is found in high rates amongst historical, creative figures. The key issue is that while he wrote prolifically and was critically acclaimed with some of his books while he was under the influence of cocaine and opiates, even when he became sober, Stephen King's novels and stories were just as, if not more, well received. The studies show that there's little association between drugs and improving creativity, and Stephen King's life experiences support that. He states that the idea that creative endeavor and mind-altering substances are entwined is one of the great pop intellectual myths of our time. The 4 20th century writers whose work is most responsible for it are probably Hemingway, Fitzgerald, Sherwood, Anderson, and the poet Dylan Thomas. On Writing, page 98. Stephen King often works on a draft daily for 5 to 6 months and then takes a 10 to 12 day break to let everything settle. In this break, he would watch television and play guitar to get away from writing. In his mind, he wanted to let the ideas settle before coming back at a manuscript with fresh eyes and fresh ideas. His wife often complained about Stephen King driving her crazy during these breaks. She would tell him to build a birdhouse or do something. Just get out of my house. Whenever he took a break from the problem, research suggests that taking a break results in a higher likelihood of the problem being solved when they come back from it to it later, when compared to working on it continuously without pause. The more removed from the original problem, the more effective the incubation is, and in his case, playing guitar and watching television give him external stimuli while simultaneously splitting the conscious mind from the writing process. He considers his writing a form of addictive and his obsessive-compulsive behavior. His writing is addictive to him, and he does much work and much revision on his works now. He feels like he writes less than before and gets just as much out of it as he did in the past. His method of incubation is a version of the still waters hypothesis. He often takes extended breaks from writing and directs his tasks and his focus towards other tasks. Stephen King's experiences with incubation are consistent with what we have learned about creativity and incubation. In his experience, revising immediately didn't give the material enough time to settle and to let his brain work out all of the nuances and revisions that he could include his newly written works. By doing different activities from his writing process, he gave his unconscious mind, time for his ideas to percolate and rearrange themselves in meaningful ways. While he was not working on the project, his mind was unconsciously working on this project and trying to overcome roadblocks and problems. In Stephen King's mind, taking a break to ruminate on his thoughts is much more productive than revising and crafting his work for hours and hours on end without taking a break. His experiences with incubation coincide with the research on the matter, and his usage of incubation helps him in his creative writing process. That covers the material that we've gone over for the class, and there are some additional facts that I would like to present and to show for your entertainment at least. Stephen Edwin King was born on the 21st of September 1947. It was a Sunday in Portland, Maine. His mother was Nellie Ruth Pillsbury King, and his father was Donald Edwin King. When he was 2 years old, his father left, and Nellie, his mother, was forced to raise both him and his brother, David. When he was 4 years old, he witnessed one of his friends get run over by a freight train while they were playing on or crossing the tracks. He personally had no memory of the incident and was only aware of the incident after he was told by his mother years after the fact. In 1967, when he was 20 years old, he sold his first short story for $35, and he was inspired by Howard Phillips Lovecraft, the creator of the Cthulhu mythos. He was raised Methodist but lost his belief in organized religion in high school, and he regained his belief in an existence of God but wasn't as religious as he was later in life. He's also been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and as Dr. Goldberry Long once said, he sees his Dark Tower series as merely a first draft and wants to go back to revising it in the future. It's essentially a giant section of a draft that he wants to sit down and revise, but he hasn't found the time to do it yet. Thank you for your time.